Hello, my little extraordinary gentlemen. I'm Mr. Church, and today I'm going to be walking you through my method of designing a character build in Fallout 76. Now, the reason I want to do this is there are a lot of good builds on YouTube and on Reddit and other forums that are really good builds, but some people might wonder, well, what if I want to design my own that fits my own playstyle? How do I even begin the task of doing such a thing as that? And so we're going to go through my process, but I'm going to also show you a few things that are good to keep in mind before you start even doing your build. And there's 3 rules in particular that I want to talk about. 1, do not run quality of life perks or crafting perks unless you are using them. So contractor, weapon artisan, stuff like that, put them on when you're using them, super duper. Put them on when you're using them, take them off when you're done. Commit to doing one specific thing with your build. Like any deck building game, you have a finite amount of space, and the more different things you try to do with one deck, the weaker all those things become. So try to do one thing. And also, use every available perk slot as affectionately, what the fuck, as possible. Because then you won't have a stroke. And also, that's the same thing as number 2, just more specific. So don't switch things up. The first thing you're going to do is check in game to see if you have any legendary perks, because this will affect your loadout. This will affect what perks and how much perk space you have. So I'm going to make sure I have the right amount. And then I'm going to go to this website called nukesdragons.com. It's I'll leave a link for that in the description. It is an amazing resource to use and a great place to look at pop-up ads. And I'm going to go to Fallout 76 character build planner and calculator. And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to find the legendary perk slots. And I'm going to equip the ones that I have in-game so that I have the correct amount of perk space to begin planning. So go to Legend. I had 4 intelligence, I had 1 luck, and I had, I think, 3 agility and way too much caffeine, so I can't breathe. That's fine. It's just probably going to end in my death. And then you'll see it changes the amount of perk spots you have here, which is amazing. That's good. Now, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick perks that you need for every build. So we're going to start with essentials for every build, and we're going to work our way into a more specific build. So starch genes and class freak, I'm going to use those in every build I do. Starch genes, every build needs them if you have mutations, and every build has mutations. Class freak, some people don't run this, but if you do the math, class freak for just 3 perk slots gives you a huge advantage. So always run class freak. In my opinion, that's a good thing to do. And also, strange in numbers. I'm always going to run strange in numbers once I find it, of course, in this pile of cards. There it is. Always run strange in numbers because that is probably the most powerful 1-star perk in this game. The amount of buff that it gives you is just, it's too good to not run. And try to stay on teams so that you're actually getting the benefits from that. And yeah, so these are the ones I would run on every build. Next, you're going to work your way into ones that you specifically, as the player, are going to use on every build. So I happen to know that I'm a hoarder and I'm going to be over encumbered and I'm going to be collecting lots of shit. So I'm going to start off by putting on my weight reduction perks. Now, I did say not to run quality of life perks, but there was a invisible asterisk after that, which was supposed to say, unless it fits your build or playstyle. So, for example, if all you do is go around the map hacking terminals and picking locks, then you run those quality of life perks. You fit them into your build during this step. But if you don't do that and you just want to put them on to pick a lock, and then that's fine. But I know that I'm going to be collecting lots of food, lots of ammo, and lots of aid. So I'm going to always run those quality of life perks because I am a hoarder. That's my problem. That's not yours. So that's why having this system where I show you how to design a build is going to be invaluable, because when you get to this step, it's going to look different from you, probably, if you don't have as much problems that I do. Now, the build I'm doing is going to be a power leveling, unyielding, bloodied build. So I'm going to pile all my stats into intelligence. And that's why I have this perk card leveled up already. And I'm going to put on 15 intelligence. This is giving me actually 20 base intelligence, even though I can only equip 15 cards worth of points to that slot. I have 20 because I have the 15, and then I have the +5 legendary intelligence. That stacks, that gives me 20 base intelligence, and that's going to help me immensely with leveling up, because intelligence directly affects the amount of XP you get. Now next, I had ADHD and equipped Concentrated Fire, but that's not the step you're going to take. Next, you're going to do what's next for this specific build. So in this case, it's a bloodied build, so I'm going to then focus on equipping bloodied build essentials. So that's going to be Nerd Rage, which of course is a must for bloody builds, and under luck, Serendipity, one of the most powerful build perks in the game, especially for a bloodied build. So that's going to keep you alive more than anything else, really, if you're bloodied. Next, I'm going to focus on the XP gain. So I know that I'm going to want to have Inspirational level 3. That's going to affect my XP. And I'm also going to put on, if I can find it, Night Person, which is going to give me +3 intelligence at night. If you want to pay attention and swap this out in the daytime, that's fine. I keep it on all the time because I have ADHD and I can't pay attention to stuff like that. So that's going to affect my intelligence. I want to get my intelligence as high as possible. I've been doing that my whole life. Doesn't work. Now I'm going to put on Curator, because if I'm running bobbleheads or magazines to affect my XP gain, those will last twice as long. Everything about this build is just about leveling up. So that's why we're doing all this stupid stuff in this order, because we're prioritizing that first. And then I'm going to run Chemfiend, because I'm going to be running like Berry Mentats to give me more intelligence, and that's going to make those last longer so that I don't get sad and have to pop more of them, because they're annoying to craft. Once you have your XP gain essentials for that build, you can then work on the basics of a bloodied build. So like Sneak, the stuff that's non-essential but pretty helpful. So it's a step below like Nerd Rage and Serendipity, but it's still really important for a bloodied build. You want to be stealthy because you don't have a lot of HP to work with. So I'm going to put that. Now, it doesn't matter what you put into intelligence, really. Those are just that's just a bunch of empty space. You have to have that intelligence high for this build. So let's work on what we want to do next, which is going to be, we're going to put a little bit more into perception for damage output so that we can save on ammunition, because we're going to be killing a lot of mobs probably if we're power leveling, one would think. And we might want to do Tank Killer, because for our perks available, that's actually going to give us a better damage output than putting on a couple of additive damage points in Commando, because that's going to ignore their armor, so the damage we are doing is going to get through. And at this point, you can decide, do I want to put more into agility and be more stealthy? Do I want to put more into perception and do a little more damage? I can even put some into endurance and have a little bit more HP to work with. And that's all up to your play style and what you want to do, because the purpose of this build here isn't to be an amazing bloodied build, it's to be an effective power leveling build. So that's the priority, and that's why we start with the intelligence, and then we fill in the blanks with whatever perks we have left. So you kind of go in this, it's a process of elimination, really, when you're putting together a build. You start with what you need first in every build, and you work your way down to the very small differences of opinion, differences of play style. If you're unsure how a perk card works, Google is sometimes helpful. Sometimes it just is a bunch of people's opinion from 2018 when the game first came out, and everyone wanted to pretend they knew what they were talking about when they didn't. Not much has changed there. It's hard to find information, so don't be afraid to test out cards and see, for example, squad maneuvers and other speed powering buffs don't stack with speed demons, so they're a waste to run. And so just keep that in mind. Some cards don't do what they say they do, and you will need to think through. So at this point in time, I am looking through like what else I would want to run. It's really at this point down to my own discretion, because this is just filling in the last few points I have left. And I'm just going to give myself Adamantium Skeleton in this example, just to be a little more tanky and to avoid getting staggered out of stealth, which can get me killed, and then Fireproof just for a little bit of flame resistance to keep me from crying as I burn to death, like someone in Salem in the 1700s. I'm not sure about that. I would check your local history channel for that information, because this is not a history channel. This is just a channel where somebody has ADHD and then tries to play video games, and then they drink a lot of caffeine, and that kind of exacerbates the problem. And I don't know what exacerbates mean, but it doesn't mean what you think it means, I don't think, unless you think it means masticate, which also doesn't mean what you think it means there. And I'm sorry about having this slight stroke. It's not a stroke. This is genius, but at light speed. I'm sorry. I apologize there. So this is an example of a power leveling build. And the cool thing about Nukes Dragons is you can name your build, and you can come back later and you can edit this build, and you can work on it, you can tweak it, and you can keep the link to it, and it'll save what you have here so that you can always just double check it. You can copy it while you're, in game and trying to fill out your cards off the top of your head. It's a little tricky. Now, I wish they had something like this in the game that was a lot more simple to work with, but alas, they do not. And now I'm going to see how they also have a spot for your loadout here, which is really helpful because it keeps those legendary perks equipped down there. And I can name this whatever I want. This is going to be the power leveling, and then it says build. So don't say power leveling build, because then you would be an idiot like I am. Now, the example that I gave you, I kind of walked you through the steps, but I can actually show you another example much quicker of, like, if I wanted to do a PvP build. But like, let's see what I have here. So also, it's good to point out that if you have the legendary perk cards, as you level them up, you're going to get more perk space available, so then you can come in here and edit them even more and add perks that you would need into that position, which is really nice to be able to edit on the move, to start off with something that you already have and work your way from there. And it's kind of nice. Let's just stare at the screen for a little bit as I remember that I was going to show you a very quick second loadout. So the first thing you're going to do, of course, if you're doing a second loadout, is you're going to start with, again, the essentials: Starch Genes and Class Freak, and Strange in Numbers. Those are the first three I start with always, no matter what build I'm doing. And then, if you're doing a secondary loadout, you want to put on all the exact same weight reduction perks that you're wearing, regardless of if you're doing all the same ones I'm doing here, or if you're just doing one or two. You want to have them all on both loadouts, because switching from one loadout to the other is going to make you over encumbered if you don't do that. And you don't want to mess with that when you're trying to get things done and quickly switch so that you can have fun in trying to fast travel. So we start off with that. And now this build is going to be all about being tanky and doing damage. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to get Life Giver, because your HP numbers are directly affected by how much endurance you have. So we want high endurance on this one. We want high agility, because that's going to affect how easy it is for us to get vaxed, because it affects our stealth. And we're going to want to also have, let's not forget Nerd Rage and Serendipity, because it's a bloodied build. Those are essential. Again, I'm demonstrating to you the order that I would recommend building your build in as I'm doing it out of order, so I apologize. We're going to do Action Boy, because we're going to need that extra AP for our jetpack. We're going to do Sneak, and we're going to do Escape Artist. Those are both going to be very helpful when people are trying to VATS us. Escape Artist really helps break VATS. Sneak helps us from getting VATS to begin with. Let's make sure we have all the endurance perks that we want, and that's going to include Adamantium Skeleton, so we don't get staggered into VATS, Fireproof, so that we don't take as much damage from explosive ammo and stuff like that. And for the Perception, we're going to want to do the big combo that gets us the best for our buck. So all the Commando perks, so Commando, Expert Commando, Tank Killer, Master Commando, and of course Concentrated Fire. So those are all the Commando perks, plus level 3 Tank Killer to avoid their armor, and Concentrated Fire so that when we do get them into VATS, we have a higher percentage of hitting them, and it does a little bit more damage to make sure we're hitting that damage cap of 110 in PvP. So then we have a little bit left over, and we want to allocate those probably to Agility so that we can... so let's get Born Survivor rank 1. Now what that's going to do is when we're under 20% health, which is right when we're hitting Nerd Rage, we're going to take a stim pack, and it's going to automatically use a stim, and that's going to be another reason why we're running Traveling Pharmacy, because we're keeping so many stims on us, because you take 1 HP of damage, you take a stim, that's fine with how I play, and if that's not how you play, then that's why I wanted to make this video, to show you the thought process behind each decision I'm making, and in what places you could do something different. So this is my play style. It looks different from a lot of people's, so you might not want to run Born Survivor, for example, because you don't have a lot of stim packs to spend. Dodgy, I'm going to run that on my PvP character because you're not relying on VATS as often as you are in PvE, so it doesn't matter if you take that AP away, but that's also another reason why we have that Action Boy going to help our AP regen when we do take hits, and that's going to help with our tankiness overall. And so we have 14 agility now. That's really good for our getting VATSed shit, and we have 6 points left, and this is a time when we could throw some more into Demo Expert, for example, if we have like an explosive weapon that we always use. Me, I don't use explosives all the time, so I'm not going to put 3 points in that I won't always use. So I'm going to go over to Luck, and I'm going to get Tormentor once I find it in here, so that I can have a better chance of staggering someone into VATS. And then Ricochet, which is going to come in handy, especially at workshops, which is where a lot of PvP takes place. Which will keep the turrets from hitting me, and so I don't only have to worry about the person I'm fighting and not their 700 turrets that they built to kill 7 mole rats. So this is kind of just a quick thrown together PvP build, and again, it's going to look different depending on you, depending on what legendary loadouts or legendary perks you have. And for some reason, they don't let you name the loadout; they only let you name the build, which to me is a little stupid here. So I'm going to change the name of this to include both loadout names so that I know what this is supposed to be, because that's a little annoying. So limited characters, I'm going to do this. This, I hope, is helpful to you guys. I know there's a lot of people that have requested my help with builds in the past, and I hope that this video helps you figure out the thought process behind how I come up with the builds I have, because it's all about your card advantage, like what cards you're using. Think about each perk space, each slot being invaluable space, because it's a finite amount of space. So that means each card you pick, you want to pick the most important one first. So you work your way through going from the most valuable to the least valuable. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. It's not my usual type of build, so I appreciate any support you might have, and please like it, and please say it was a great build, because I have really low self-esteem, and that will actually help quite a bit. I love you all. Thank you so much to my patrons for all your support. Thank you for all my subs, and if you guys want to join my Discord, the link for that is in the description. It's a great community. We have a lot of fun together, and we don't even talk about like penises and stuff in there. So I hope you guys have a great day or night. It's nighttime right now, so I will see you guys in the next fucking video.